Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up tomorrow knowing you could not fail. Imagine walking through your day with the calm certainty that everything you touch would work in your favor. No fear, no doubt. Just unstoppable confidence. What dreams would you chase? What limits would you shatter? Because the truth is, the only thing standing between you and everything you've ever wanted is the belief that something could stop you. So today, let's erase that belief, because when you move as if failure is impossible, your life will never be the same again. And when you take that first step, something extraordinary begins to happen. The world, which once seemed uncertain and filled with obstacles, begins to respond to you in ways you could never have predicted. Doors start to open that you never noticed before. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach begin to align themselves with your path. The moment you move with certainty, life begins to mirror that certainty back to you, because success, in its truest form, is not a reward, it's a reflection. The world reflects what you believe you deserve and what you expect to receive. When a person truly believes they cannot fail, their energy shifts. They carry themselves differently. There's a quiet confidence in their presence, a calm assurance that cannot be faked. Others can feel it. They are drawn to it. That kind of energy attracts people, ideas, and resources. It commands attention, not through arrogance, but through authenticity. The power of unwavering belief doesn't shout, it radiates. It moves mountains not by force, but by alignment. You've seen it in great leaders, in creators, in visionaries. They don't chase outcomes, they embody them. Every great achievement begins as an idea, a whisper of possibility in the mind of one person who dares to imagine. But imagination without belief remains only a dream. Belief turns imagination into motion, and motion turns vision into reality. When you move with the certainty that you cannot fail, you tap into a creative force that has been waiting to work with you all along. You stop wrestling with doubt and start collaborating with destiny. You stop fighting for proof and start walking in faith. And faith, when backed by consistent action, becomes unstoppable. Consider the way an architect designs a building. The structure doesn't yet exist, but in their mind it's already complete. Every line, every angle, every detail is perfectly imagined before the first brick is laid. They see it before they see it. And because they see it so clearly, they act as though it already stands before them. That is how success is built, not from chance, but from vision sustained by belief. The same principle applies to your life. You are the architect of your destiny, and your thoughts are the blueprints. If those thoughts are filled with fear, your foundation will crumble. But if they are built upon faith, your structure will stand tall against any storm. The human mind was never designed to dwell in limitation. It was built to create, to explore, to expand. Yet, most people live as though the best parts of life are reserved for someone else. They shrink their dreams to fit their fears instead of stretching their faith to fit their potential. But when you imagine a life without failure, something inside you wakes up, a part of you that remembers it was born for more. You stop asking, "Can I?" and start declaring, "I will." That shift in language changes everything, because your words shape your reality long before your actions do. There's immense power in the decision to act boldly. The world bends to those who move with conviction. History has proven this time and again. The ones who have changed the course of humanity were not always the smartest, the richest, or the most talented. They were the most certain. They refused to entertain the idea of defeat. When one door closed, they built another. When one plan failed, they created a better one. They didn't interpret obstacles as signs to stop, but as signals to adjust. That's what it means to move as though you cannot fail. You don't deny the challenge, but you never let it dictate your destiny. Imagine for a moment that everything you desire is already possible. Picture yourself living the life you've always dreamed of. See it in your mind in vivid color. Feel the emotions that come with it, the pride, the joy, the gratitude. Let it become real in your imagination, because your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what is imagined and what is real. When you consistently feed it images of success, it begins to move heaven and earth to make that image your reality. Every great transformation begins in the invisible realm of thought before it manifests in the visible world of action. The tragedy is that so many people quit before the miracle happens. They let temporary setbacks convince them that their dream was not meant to be. But the truth is, most dreams don't fail. They are simply abandoned too soon. The road to success is not a straight line. It's a winding path with turns you cannot predict. Yet, if you knew you could not fail, you would keep walking no matter how uncertain the path appeared. You would trust that every turn, every delay, every obstacle was shaping you into the person capable of handling what you're asking for. Because success isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you need to be to receive it. There's something deeply powerful about the idea of resilience, the ability to keep moving forward when logic says stop. Those who succeed on the grandest scale are not those who never fall, but those who rise faster each time they do. They've trained their minds to interpret failure as feedback, not finality. They understand that every setback contains the seed of an equal or greater benefit. When you begin to think that way, fear dissolves. Failure loses its sting because it no longer represents loss. It represents learning, and the person who never stops learning can never truly lose. If you could not fail, you would stop waiting for motivation and start living from discipline. You would no longer rely on fleeting bursts of inspiration. You would build habits that make success inevitable. You would wake each day knowing that every action, no matter how small, compounds toward your vision. You would understand that greatness is not built in moments of excitement, but in the quiet hours of consistency. You would treat every day as an opportunity to move closer to the life you see in your mind. That's how the extraordinary becomes ordinary, through relentless, purposeful repetition. There is a certain peace that comes from releasing the fear of failure. It's the peace of knowing that nothing can truly go wrong when everything is working for your growth. Even what appears to be loss is often just redirection. Life has a way of guiding those who move with faith, of placing them in the right place at the right time. But you must be in motion for that guidance to occur. You cannot steer a parked car, and you cannot guide a life that refuses to move. Action is the bridge between imagination and reality. Once you step onto it, the journey begins to unfold. Think of those moments in your life when you were at your best, when you acted without hesitation, when you trusted your instincts, when you felt completely alive. In those moments, you were not overthinking or fearing failure, you were simply being. That is your natural state, one of flow, confidence, and purpose. Fear is a learned response. Courage is your birthright. When you strip away the conditioning that tells you to play small, you return to the truth of who you are, a limitless being with infinite potential. When you believe you cannot fail, you stop measuring your worth by outcomes. You stop attaching your identity to wins and losses because you understand that your value is intrinsic. It was there before you achieved anything and will remain long after. This mindset allows you to operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You no longer chase success out of need, you attract it through certainty. You no longer fear losing because you know that even in loss you are growing. That kind of freedom is what allows you to play bigger, dream bolder, and live fully. Imagine facing each day with a quiet knowing that everything is unfolding perfectly. Imagine no longer being controlled by what-ifs or regrets. Imagine having complete trust that every decision you make is leading you toward your destiny. That kind of confidence doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from alignment. When your thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony, the universe has no choice but to cooperate with you. You become a magnet for opportunity, not because you chase it, but because you embody it. So if failure were not an option, what excuses would you release today? What dreams would you dust off and begin again? What risks would you finally take? Because the truth is, the only thing separating you from the life you desire is the belief that something could stop you. But once you let that go, once you decide that you are unstoppable, the game changes completely. You begin to walk differently, think differently, act differently. You begin to live not as a victim of circumstance, but as a creator of destiny. Every great life begins with that decision, to imagine, to believe, and to move. The moment you act as if you cannot fail, the universe begins to rearrange itself to match your conviction. You'll notice people showing up to help, opportunities revealing themselves, and strength you didn't know you had rising within you. It's not luck, it's alignment, because when you step fully into belief, you no longer wait for proof of your power, you become it. And when you become that living proof of what belief can do, you begin to see that life has never been about chance. It has always been about choice. Every moment, every thought, every action is a choice between faith and fear, between movement and stagnation, between expansion and contraction. Most people wait for certainty before they act, but those who rise to greatness act first, and certainty follows. The act of moving forward is what creates confidence, not the other way around. You do not wait to feel ready, you become ready through motion. And once you understand this truth, hesitation loses its grip on your soul. When you decide that you cannot fail, something deeper awakens within you, a quiet fire that burns with determination. It's the same force that drives the seed to break through the soil towards sunlight, the same force that lifts the bird to the sky, the same force that drives humanity to reach beyond what was thought possible. That force lives in you. It has always been there, waiting for you to give it permission to express itself fully. Every time you choose courage over comfort, that fire grows stronger. Every time you act in faith rather than fear, that force moves more powerfully through you. Eventually, you no longer have to try. You simply are. Confidence becomes your natural state, not something you chase, but something you live. Imagine living each day with that kind of inner power. You would stop fearing uncertainty because you would understand that uncertainty is not your enemy. It is the space where miracles are born. You would stop worrying about what might go wrong and start focusing on what could go right. You would stop doubting your timing, your gifts, your path. Instead, you would embrace the unknown as a partner, not a threat. Because when you know you cannot fail, even the unknown becomes a friend guiding you toward growth. Most people never experience this level of freedom because they've been conditioned to play small. They were told to be realistic, to avoid disappointment, to stay within the boundaries of what's safe and familiar. But safety is an illusion. It's the most dangerous comfort there is. The person who avoids risk avoids life itself. Every great dream demands a leap of faith, and the leap always feels uncertain. But that's the point. You're meant to jump before you can see where you'll land, because the act of jumping builds wings that standing still never could. The moment you leap, something within you reorganizes to match that decision. You tap into strength that was always there but only revealed through action. Think about the people who have changed history, not because they were fearless, but because they acted in spite of fear. They didn't have guarantees, they had vision. They didn't have certainty, they had conviction. They knew that progress required risk, and that waiting for perfect conditions was a form of slow death. The same principle applies to you. There will never be a perfect time, perfect opportunity, or perfect plan. There will only be now, this moment, this breath, this chance to begin, and when you move as though you cannot fail, now is always enough. There's a quiet beauty in realizing that success is not a single event, it's a state of being. It's the harmony between your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It's the alignment of your inner belief with your outer behavior. When you walk in that harmony, you radiate a calm assurance that cannot be shaken. You no longer need to force results. You simply attract them by the energy you carry. You stop chasing and start allowing. You begin to understand that you are not separate from success. You are the source of it. It flows through you, not to you. Imagine waking up each morning knowing that everything you do contributes to your inevitable victory. Every conversation, every step, every task, no matter how small, moves you closer to your vision. You no longer measure progress by speed but by direction. You no longer fear mistakes because you know that even missteps are part of the choreography of success. This understanding frees you to experiment, to create, to explore without hesitation. You become less concerned with being perfect and more devoted to being purposeful. And in that devotion, you find a rhythm that transforms your entire existence. Those who live as though they cannot fail also carry a deep sense of responsibility. They understand that their life is not an accident, it's an assignment. Every gift, every talent, every passion was given to them for a reason. They see their success not as something selfish, but as something sacred. Because the more they grow, the more they can give. The more they rise, the more they can lift others. They know that by becoming all they are capable of being, they give permission to others to do the same. That's the quiet revolution of belief. It spreads by example, not instruction. If you could see the ripple your belief creates, you would never again doubt your worth. One act of courage can inspire 1,000 more. One moment of faith can light the path for others lost in fear. When you live as though you cannot fail, you become a living invitation for others to do the same. You become proof that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to anyone who dares to believe. The most extraordinary transformations often begin with the simplest decision to keep going, not because it's easy, but because you've decided that nothing will make you stop. That is the mindset of someone who cannot fail. They understand that everything they need is already within them. They stop waiting for external permission and start granting it to themselves. They stop hoping for a break and start becoming the kind of person who creates one. They no longer live as victims of circumstance, but as architects of destiny. Every challenge becomes raw material for growth. Every obstacle becomes a teacher. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. When you truly live from this perspective, you begin to see that failure never existed in the first place. It was only feedback, an invitation to adjust, refine, and try again. The real failure is not falling down, it's refusing to rise. But when you know you cannot fail, you rise every time. You learn faster, adapt quicker, and move with greater clarity. You become unstoppable not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You no longer fear storms, you become the storm. You move with purpose, speak with conviction, and act with faith. The human spirit was designed to expand through challenge. Every obstacle you face is proof that you are moving forward. The greater the resistance, the closer you are to something meaningful. So, when life tests you, when things don't go as planned, when doubt whispers in your ear, remind yourself, this is what growth feels like. This is the fire that refines. This is the pressure that shapes diamonds. And you are that diamond being formed, not broken. The only thing that determines whether you emerge shining or shattered is how you choose to perceive it. When you live as though you cannot fail, your perspective changes entirely. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That single shift turns every struggle into strength. It transforms chaos into clarity. It gives meaning to moments that once felt meaningless. You begin to see that life is not happening against you, it's happening for you. Every experience, pleasant or painful, is sculpting the masterpiece of your becoming. And when you trust that process, peace follows. There is a certain grace in those who know they cannot fail. They are calm when others panic, patient when others rush, certain when others doubt. They carry within them a quiet knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. They no longer measure time by results, but by progress. They no longer crave validation because they understand that the journey itself is proof of their growth. This grace makes them magnetic. Others want to be around them, to learn from them, to rise with them. Because confidence rooted in faith is contagious. It spreads light wherever it goes. You may not realize it, but that same grace lives within you. It's been there since the moment you took your first breath. You were born with the ability to believe, to imagine, to create. The world may have taught you to doubt, but that doesn't mean your power disappeared. It's simply waiting for you to reclaim it, and the way you reclaim it is by moving forward, even when you don't yet see how. Every step in faith reawakens that power. Every act of courage strengthens your connection to it. And soon you begin to live not as someone trying to succeed, but as someone incapable of failing. So imagine again that failure does not exist, that every move you make is progress, every decision leads to growth, every effort plants a seed that will one day bloom. If you lived from that truth, how much more would you give? How much more boldly would you act? Because when you remove failure from your vocabulary, all that remains is discovery, evolution, and victory. And life, in all its mystery and beauty, begins to open its arms wide to meet you where your courage begins. And as life opens its arms to meet you, you start to understand a profound truth. You were never meant to chase success. You were meant to align with it. The universe has always been conspiring in your favor, but it responds only to the level of your belief. The moment you decide that you cannot fail, the forces of life begin to rearrange themselves around that conviction. Coincidences multiply, opportunities appear, people show up at the right time, and what once felt impossible starts to unfold naturally. It's not magic, it's the law of cause and effect. Your thoughts are the cause, your reality is the effect. The stronger your belief, the clearer your path becomes. Every action taken in faith sends a ripple through the world. It tells life, "I am ready." And life, in response, begins to deliver everything you've been waiting for. Most people wait for proof before they believe, but those who achieve greatness believe first, and proof always follows. Belief is the seed, results are the harvest. You cannot reap before you plant, and you cannot plant without faith. That's why your inner world matters more than anything else. It's the soil in which your destiny grows. If you could look ahead and see the person you are becoming, you would never doubt again. Because that version of you, the one living freely, confidently, purposefully, already exists in potential. It's waiting for your actions today to bring it into form. You become that person not through chance, but through alignment, by thinking the thoughts they would think, speaking the words they would speak, and taking the steps they would take. The moment you begin to act like that future self, the transformation begins. The gap between who you are and who you're meant to be starts to close. When you live as though you cannot fail, you stop letting the opinions of others dictate your direction. You understand that most people project their own limitations onto you, not out of malice, but out of fear. They see the world through the lens of their own doubts, and they call it reality. But their reality is not yours. You are not required to carry their fears. You are only required to walk your path with faith. The greatest mistake you can make is to dim your light to make others comfortable. You were not born to fit in, you were born to illuminate. The more you shine, the more you remind others of the light within themselves. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is rarely about talent, it's about endurance. The successful simply stay in the game longer. They hold the vision when others let it fade. They push forward when others retreat. They understand that time is not their enemy, it's their ally. Every day that passes, every lesson learned, every small step taken compounds into something extraordinary. Because persistence is not about stubbornness, it's about faith in motion. And when faith moves, mountains do too. Think of the moments when you were closest to giving up, yet somehow found the strength to continue. What carried you through wasn't logic, it was something deeper. That quiet voice that whispered, "Keep going." That voice is the same one that built civilizations, cured diseases, and conquered oceans. It's the voice of the spirit within you, the eternal reminder that you are made of resilience, not fragility. Every time you listen to that voice, you move closer to the life you're meant to live. Every time you ignore it, you remain where you are. The choice is always yours, to listen to fear or to listen to faith. There's a sacred rhythm to growth. You plant the seed, you water it, and you trust that it will grow, even when you cannot yet see it breaking through the soil. That's the hardest part of success. The waiting, the unseen season when it feels like nothing is happening, when your effort seems invisible, when doubt creeps in. But that's exactly when you must keep believing, because the roots are growing beneath the surface. Life is preparing the harvest, even if your eyes cannot yet see it, and when the time is right, everything blooms at once. The reward is always in proportion to the patience you showed while waiting. When you know you cannot fail, you begin to see time differently. You stop rushing, you stop chasing, you start trusting. You understand that what is meant for you cannot miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. You realize that your role is not to force the outcome, but to align with it through consistency and faith. That's the quiet confidence of someone who understands their power. They don't panic when things move slowly because they know the seed cannot rush its own growth. They don't compare themselves to others because they know every garden blooms in its own season. To live as though you cannot fail also means learning to detach from outcomes. It doesn't mean apathy, it means peace. You give your best, you act with intention, and then you trust the process. You no longer live in anxiety, wondering what will happen. You already know it will work out for your good. That kind of trust makes you magnetic, because calm is rare in a world full of worry. People are drawn to those who walk in peace, who radiate assurance, who move with purpose. That peace comes only when you release the need to control and embrace the power to create. The world often tests you right before it rewards you. It will ask, "How badly do you really want this?" And in those moments, when everything seems uncertain, your answer must be action, because every step forward is a declaration of belief. Every moment of persistence sends a message to life: I will not be moved. And life always responds to those who refuse to give up. The path may twist and turn, but it always leads to the same place: growth, mastery, and fulfillment. Those who continue discover that success is not at the destination. It's in every step taken with conviction. There's a great paradox in this idea of being unable to fail. Once you accept it, you no longer fear loss. And that's precisely when you begin to win. Fear tightens your grip. Faith opens your hands. Fear closes doors. Faith walks through them. Fear hesitates, faith acts. The more you release control, the more control you gain, because when your focus shifts from avoiding failure to pursuing growth, everything becomes a lesson and nothing is wasted. Even the detours have purpose, even the delays are divine. You begin to see that success is not about perfection, it's about authenticity. It's not about never falling, it's about never pretending you didn't. People connect not with flawless performances, but with genuine effort. They're inspired by those who dared to try, failed, and tried again. That's what moves hearts and changes lives. The courage to keep showing up, to keep believing, to keep creating even when the outcome is uncertain. Because at the heart of all greatness lies one unshakable truth: those who persist are always rewarded. When you live as though you cannot fail, your dreams stop being distant fantasies. They become inevitable outcomes. You begin to move differently, you speak with more conviction, you carry yourself with quiet power, you no longer wonder if you'll succeed. You simply ask how long it will take. That mindset doesn't just change your results, it changes your reality. Because your energy begins to lead the way, you walk into every room with the vibration of certainty, and the world responds in kind. People sense it, opportunities feel it, and the universe aligns with it. In this state, every action becomes meaningful. You no longer waste time on doubt, comparison, or regret. You understand that your journey is uniquely yours, that your pace is perfect, that your story is unfolding exactly as it should. You begin to find joy not just in achieving goals, but in the process of becoming. You celebrate the small wins, the lessons learned, the growth experienced along the way. You realize that the purpose of life is not to reach a finish line, but to keep evolving, expanding, and creating. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding, truly deciding, that failure no longer exists for you, that every effort, every setback, every challenge only moves you closer to success. Imagine how differently you would speak to yourself, how differently you would move through the world. Would you still hold back, or would you step forward boldly, knowing that the universe meets courage halfway? That decision, to live as if you cannot fail, is not arrogance, it's alignment with truth. Because deep within you, beneath every doubt and every fear, there has always been a knowing that you were meant for more. That knowing is the voice of possibility calling you forward, asking only that you believe.